Game of Thrones has just been released, so it's a great time for me to show my love for this series. Obviously written with the don't tell show approach in mind, it's often what they don't say I find just as entertaining. I love the characters, relationships, and especially the political scheming, and although telling is more efficient, there's not a lot of subtlety, and I find it a lot more fun and interesting reading into them. I don't think that enough love has been given to how well these actors characterise the personalities, and the small council scene is an excellent example of this. Nothing is said at all, yet communicating so much without a single word. It's conceivable that even a casual observer would be able to guess the basic characters from just watching this scene. I love the way Tywin commands the room with his presence. An obvious military leader, tough, inflexible, he expects people to follow his lead and example, comes off as solid, rigid, and with an unblinking sternness. And he uses this unblinking stare to create menacing effect throughout the series, as you can see with the scene with Joffrey.
My father won the real war. He killed Prince Rhaegar. He took the crown while you hid under Castle Rock.
The king is tired. See him to his chambers.
Come along.
I'm not tired.
We have so much to celebrate. A wedding to plan. You must rest.
No one will sit down at the table without Tywin say so, and he indicates this through his body language. Once he has established control of the room, he sits down, nods his head to indicate to them that they are okay to take their positions. Then they move one by one, and the order is interesting and telling of their characters. It establishes a kind of pecking order, and in a way it shows how they play the game, or at least at this point. First to sit down is Littlefinger, cutting off Varys, showing his eagerness and thirst for power. Varys knows his agenda and sees him being a sycophant as part of his ploy for power. Obviously, Varys must think that Littlefinger doesn't have a lot of respect for himself, but this must be an effective tactic. Littlefinger wants power, and there's nothing he won't do for it. Symbolically positioning himself as close to power as he can, next to Tywin. Positioning himself as an eager dog's body to be useful allows him to access the reins of power. It allows him influence and the ability to conduct his schemes. Should a step on the ladder of chaos become or be made available, he would be there to take it. Littlefinger became the Lord of Harrenhal, and other characters on the show wondered why he would want this, but Varys knew why Littlefinger wanted this. Though it was said to be cursed and holds no armies, this suits Littlefinger quite well. He wants the castle in order to make him more legitimate. As he said at the end of the scene, titles tend to breed titles. But he doesn't want to be dragged into open power struggles such as wars, and having no army suits this. He prefers to work in the shadows, it's just another stepping stone. Varys takes the middle seat, neutral ground. Varys tends to build alliances to gain influence. This is why they call him the Spider. Building actual power, and to a degree with the illusion of none, when you consider his riddle. A powerful person can cast no shadow at all. In many ways, he is the polar opposite to Tywin, who tends to lord his power over people. Varys already being untrusted, as they say in the show, never trust a eunuch or a craven. Varys tries to come off as no threat at all, a powdered coward who is useful for information. Most of Pycelle sits at the back, furthest away from Tywin, furthest away from power, which is in keeping with his character considering the goals which were explored in deleted scenes. Playing a role of being more feeble than he actually is, he flies under the radar, and you can see hints of this in certain scenes. But it would have been really interesting to see if he had anything more buried beneath the surface.
My apologies, my lord, for interrupting your time of leisure. But I only want to discuss a few matters with you privately in advance of today's council meeting. I often find that the council environment is less than hospitable to the principles of good governance.
You are no longer on the council.
by official decree of the hand of the king.
Your son did conspire to keep me from my rightful place in the chamber, as well as affronting my dignity in other ways.
In my absence, my son was acting hand.
But you are the hand now, my lord.
But I have not revoked the acting hand's decree.
Oh, my lord, I must say that this is most surprising to
Perhaps
me.
he had it right. Perhaps in the black cells you truly found your level.
Oh, my lord, you cannot mean that.
Stop it. Am I the only one to see through this performance? Is it possible that so many could be so stupid for so long? Huh?
There are times when I have trouble believing it myself.
And why do you bother?
So many flowers, my lord, each wanting to grow the tallest, bloom the brightest. And one by one, sooner or later, they all get plucked. I don't want to be the tallest or the brightest. I only want to remain in the garden until my time comes to return to the dirt.
Well, thank you for your poetic candor. But I still don't see why I should let you back on my council.
The King's counsel, my lord.
I could have you return to the dirt this afternoon if you like.
He just wants to fly under the radar, and it would have been a lot nicer if they could have fleshed it out, if they would have left ghillie scenes off, which they really could have in the show. There could have been more plotting. The Maesters might be up to something, but it could have been an honest response after being caught out in a deception by Tywin. Cersei is the last to enter the room, and I've got to say, it's really enjoyable just the way she does it. She swans in with an air of confidence and arrogance, and is not subject to the jostling for position. She strides across the room, not looking at anyone but Tywin, and completely ignoring Tyrion looking up at her. She takes a chair and positions it in pride of place right next to her father, not facing into the table, but at an angle, facing down at the rest of the council. Not on the same level as Tywin, but above the rest. She's arrogant, overconfident, and this will be a common theme in many of her mistakes down the road. Tyrion is the last to sit down, but by no means least. At this point he hasn't decided to play the game. It is actually within this conversation he is appointed Master of Coin. More interested in satisfying his base desires, he sees everyone jostling for Tywin's approval as some kind of absurd pantomime. He doesn't try to win any favour, but shows a level of contempt, but this is understandable. Tywin would never win any Father of the Year awards, and Tyrion lets him know this. He's resentful, and he shows it. He drags his stool slowly, purposely, and noisily across the room. He positions himself at the end of the table, symbolically showing to Tywin that he does not see himself as less, or he will not be submissive. Then he makes a joke, showing that he doesn't take the council or Tywin all that seriously, and to Tywin there is no greater insult. Tywin's character is all about respect, and there are very few people that can take that away from him. Well, not without some consequences. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd like to know in the comments what your insights were. What did you see in this scene? And if you would like to see more of this type of thing, as usual, bell like, sub, and I'll see you guys later.